Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's December the 4th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And interesting day. We had an upward bias the entire day. We really, we had this big move in the overnight. We went sideways. We had another two-legged move up, and we just went sideways. I really thought we'd probably try to pull back some and at least test this resistance or this former resistance here as support, or this former support as resistance, and maybe even try to test this or fill this gap, but prices just couldn't sell off. So we had a little bit of sell off late in the afternoon. I think people, once we failed on this breakout, people just gave up on this resistance, and it didn't sell off hard, but people just exited. Is what it looks like to me. So um, a lot of people struggle these kind of days. I love these kind of days. This is so predictable. It's so predictable. You could buy here almost every time, and the same thing, you could sell here every time. And what really trips people up, I always have people looking at, I took this failed second entry long, or I took this second entry short, or this second entry long, and you got to forget that in these tight ranges because you'll just get chopped all to pieces. The only way to trade this is to try to get short off the highs and long off the lows. Everything in between is just noise. And you can see what happens. You come off the top, you go to the bottom. You go from the bottom to the top, from top to the bottom to top, top to bottom. And it just does that over and over. And even if it continues on successfully, it will fail almost always on the initial break lower. Just like here it failed. Here it failed even though it went lower. It failed originally. Here you broke out up here, it failed. Really, this was a breakout from what we had earlier right here, and it failed. And it breaks out the bottom, and guess what? It fails. And what happens to people, the way most people teach this, is you're getting long up here and getting short down here, and you just get chopped all to pieces. And if you just treat it like a breakout, more times than not, you'll be on the right side of it. So, anyway, you can see that there. We broke out. We had this big move up. We went sideways. We broke out two legs up. We went sideways again. And then we backed off a little bit in the afternoon. So market closed up considerably from yesterday. So anyway, I'm gonna back out. We'll talk about these trades and we'll wrap up today. But that's, you got to remember on these, when you get in these tight ranges, forget about your second entries. I mean, if you see a second entry long off these lows or a second entry short off these highs, by all means take that into account. But don't be looking for failures and second entries just happening in different places, because you're just going to get chopped all to pieces. And I say that over and over, and it never fails. Somebody will send me an email and say, what happened here? And, generally what happened is they were taking a failed second entry or a second entry or something in the middle of this range, and you just get chopped all to pieces. So anyway, we're back out. Let me make this a little bit bigger. 7 o'clock came right in here, and then you came back up with this little double test. Actually, it's a multiple test, and unfortunately, you couldn't get short up here. You couldn't get short until way down here. However, at this point, I would have probably had this line at least down here, and maybe even here, somewhere like right here. Really, you get the most touches right there. So I probably would have had it there, and that gives you enough room, especially it broke higher first and turned and went out down here. So especially if you went short one tick below there, that would be the way you'd have to trade that. I marked it green because it has those stipulations in it, but I wouldn't be afraid to take that short. I mean, look how many times we turned down off that. It's just free money almost if you get in close enough to the highs. And then once we bounced right here, I would have moved that up, especially when we bounced again. This one's uh, a second entry long. Notice that high, first entry. Actually, there's a second entry right there, but this is a double top, so that's a first entry, or that's a new high. So first entry and then second entry. So you got a second entry right here, long, a nice bullish bar. Um, you've had some support right across there previously, as you can see. You can see that support right across there. And it looks like a little failed break lower. But even if you move it to here, the safer trade is here, because now you get a double bottom and a double test of that line, and you got another nice bullish bar. That's the better entry. And then you run up here. This one's tempting. Uh, of course, look how many times we've turned down and look how many times it tested it. 1, 2, 3. And that's a fairly bearish bar. So what I would probably do is use that for my signal bar. I wouldn't trust it with those 3 bars up there. Although the reason you're probably getting that congestion right there is because this is resistance and the market's trying to go higher and it's probably going to give up and turn down. But I'd probably still use this as my signal bar right here. It's fairly bearish. If you get a break below that, I mean, when it closes, put your sell stop right there. And if you get a break below that, then you'd probably be good to go. And you can see that trade worked out nicely. And of course, it bounces. Unfortunately, you don't get a setup down here. Bearish bar, inside bar. This is really your signal bar. You just don't get a setup. You just have that congestion again. Of course, it's obvious why you get it, but you still need a good signal bar, and you just don't get one there. So it's unfortunate that you can't catch that trade back up, but better safe than sorry. But if you're just patient, you'll get another trade in a minute, and guess what? It came right here. There's actually a second entry long right here. Notice that high, first entry, second entry. But you can see this trend line working off these lows down here. And we didn't quite get back to the EMA right there. Plus you got a lot of support and you got a lot of resistance. But when it touched it again and it closed outside of it, if it breaks above that, we're probably going higher. And that does pretty much confirm that trend line. And off it goes. And that's the best setup trade of the morning so far besides this one here. And off it goes. And I would just look for a measured move of your big move, but I'd also, usually they're more accurate on the closer one, so I'd look for a measured move right there, and that would be my target. And we didn't really quite get it. We ended up getting it, I think, by the end of the day right here. You can see we pretty much got it right there, but excuse me, it took a long time. And I also would have measured this first overnight leg. And we'll go back to it. I meant to show it earlier, but you can measure that leg, and then that's where the low point started higher. And that would have been my biggest target right there, and you can see that. So, and we missed that one by quite a bit. And you notice once eventually, and that's another thing. If you got a target like that, and after so long you don't reach it and it turns down, then you're probably going to get a nice move to the downside. And that would have been a clue right here that, hey, we may be going lower right there, especially on that failed breakout. So this would have been a nice target here. I would have probably exited right in here. I wouldn't write all this out to try to reach that target there. It's too risky. So, but that was a nice move right there. And then we're just kind of moving around. It's tempting to try to get short up here, but you don't really get a good signal bar. And then finally you get a little double test. This line would have probably been right here at that point. And notice you got a double test right there and then another one. And that's a nice bullish bar. So when it broke above that, I'm going long. And that's a second entry too. Notice that new high, first entry, second entry. What does it do? It runs straight up to the other side. That's a lower high, but I'd wait on a second entry, which comes here. It actually broke higher and turned and went out the other side. Just go short right there. It's almost a repeat of this right here. This original trade back down here. And of course it bounces. You get a little break lower and it bounces. And again, I like this one right here. If it breaks above that bar, I'd actually go long right there because that's a big, really bullish bar, especially when it makes it. The thing is, you got to be a little careful about the 2-bar matching high there. But the fact that that's been support all along, and this has got a higher low, and both of those closed here. If it breaks above there, it's probably going to take off. It took a little bit, but it did. You still could have scalped out of that, I think, before it backed up again. This bar's too big. You're too close to the highs. Just skip it. And here you made that high, and you get a quick double test, and look how bearish that bar is. Go short one tick below that. It actually backed up a little bit more, so it's a little nerve-wracking, but just hang on. Put your stop above there and hang on in just a minute, and it's dropping down. And at that point, I'd have this line right there. And notice we bounce there. Now you close outside. You're not paying as much attention to these trend lines because the support and resistance is going to win out most times. So, but Notice you get this nice bullish bar, small, close to the bottom, take it. When you get this one that makes a higher low, definitely take it if you're not already in. Plus now you got a double test of this. And I mean, you just got so many tests across there, it's obvious now. Same thing when it gets back up here. If you get a set up here to go short, take it. Runs up here, there's your high. It makes a lower high right here with a little small, relatively bullish bar. Let me back out where you can see that a little better. Just go short one tick, and there it goes again. Comes down here and you get a failed breakout with a bullish bar way away from the EMA. I'm probably going to take that one. You want to wait for the higher low, which is here, which you don't get a signal bar. And then you get your true reversal right here, and it confirms that trend line. Notice your first two swings, that confirms it. Bullish bar, go long right there. And if you didn't get in there, definitely get in right here on this second entry. Notice that high, first entry, second entry, right off that trend line again. And it actually turns back again here, but when it made that triple bar high and this was closed as a doji, if you weren't in by then, I wouldn't get in. You should have already been in on this bar or this bar. And boom, there it goes. And this time you get a little failed breakout here. Generally, you want to wait on your lower high. But that's a big bearish bar right there, and you're way away from the EMA. If it breaks below that, you're probably going to get a drop down. This, you could argue for this one's almost green being that late in the day, but we hadn't been away from the EMA that long all day. So, and this is a failed breakout, just what, generally you want to wait on that lower high. It's too bad it didn't break higher right there, and you could have got short right there when it went down. And there's another lower high here, but it's almost 220, almost 230 by then. I wouldn't go. It's a little bit too late. So, but yeah, I love these days. They're so predictable, and you just can't hardly go wrong with them if you trade them properly. The key is to forget about everything in the middle and only look for longs off the lows, shorts off the highs. Same thing here, longs off the lows, shorts off the high, and that includes breakouts. Just generally, especially if you get a breakout, wait on a lower high off the high or a higher low off the bottom in most cases, and you'll be better off. And again, it's so predictable that you just can't hardly mess it up. So anyway, there's not much else you can say about today other than it's just, this is one of those days where you spent most of it ranging and then you had a little move up and you just ranged again, and it's just prices are just sitting there going sideways in tight range, and it is a tight range because your lows are around, just call that 31.12, and your highs are for the most part around 31.18. So that's about 6 points. So if you get a breakout on these that fails, that's when I'd look for a runner. The rest of the time I probably wouldn't worry about a runner, but if you get a breakout like right here or right here or right here, every one of those you could have caught a runner on it. So those failures, those failed breakouts, that's where you want to try to pick up a runner on these, because a lot of times you'll get an important high on a failed breakout out the high, and you'll get an important low on a breakout out the low side. Just like right here, that was the low of the morning. And then when you broke out up here, that was a pretty good breakout. And then this one was the high of the day. So those are the ones you want to look for, those runners. So keep that in mind. But pretty good day. So believe it or not, it's already Wednesday, and we'll come in tomorrow and wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays anymore. So tomorrow we'll wrap up our week. So I'm going to wrap it up, and we'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll see what tomorrow brings. Hope you had a good day today. I'm done. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.